Welcome back to Old Coin Adventures. Some Lincoln pennies are valuable because they're extremely old. Others become interesting because something went wrong before the coin ever reached your pocket. And the 1963 Lincoln cent has a story that begins with a detail you might normally ignore. Look at Lincoln, then look at the lettering, and finally, look at the date. Because on certain 1963 D cents, parts of the design can appear to carry a second impression. Not a scratch, not damage, and not simply a coin that was struck twice. The real question is, how did that extra image get onto the coin in the first place? That's where this little penny becomes much more interesting, because a genuine double die is created during the preparation of the die itself. The mistake happens before the coin is struck, and the same unusual characteristic can then appear on coins produced from that die. And here's what makes today's investigation especially interesting. The 1963 D Lincoln cent was produced in enormous numbers. More than 1.7 billion were struck at Denver. So the date alone isn't rare. But a specific die variety can tell a completely different story. And if your 1963 D happens to show the right doubling, you may be looking at a recognized variety known as the 1963 D double die obverse FS 101. But don't assume every blurry letter is an error. That's where many collectors make their first mistake. So today, we're going to examine exactly where to look, what genuine doubling should look like, and how to separate a real double die characteristic from ordinary machine doubling. And stay with me until part 2, because that's where we'll get into the money, including what a certified example actually brought at auction, and what you should do if your own penny appears to match the variety. So take that 1963 Lincoln cent, bring it closer, and let's find out whether there's more hiding on this penny than meets the eye. Before we talk about value, let's understand the coin we're examining. The 1963 Lincoln cent belongs to the Lincoln Memorial Cent series. Abraham Lincoln appears on the obverse, with "I in God we trust," liberty, and the date, 1963. The reverse features the Lincoln Memorial, along with United States of America, 1 cent, and E pluribus unum. The coin measures approximately 19 millimeters across and weighs about 3.11 grams. And because we're looking at a 1963 cent, the composition is different from the modern zinc pennies you see today. This coin is made from a bronze alloy, containing approximately 95% copper, and it has a plain edge. Now, turn your attention back to the front. If there's no mint mark, you're looking at a Philadelphia issue. But if you see a small D underneath the date, you have a Denver minted coin. And that's where today's investigation becomes much more interesting. The Denver Mint struck more than 1.7 billion 1963 Lincoln cents. So finding a 1963 D isn't difficult. The difficult part is finding the right one, because PCGS lists are recognized. 1963 E double die obverse. This 101. And this is where you need to slow down. Don't look at the entire coin at once. Start with the lettering. Look at liberty. Then examine "In God we trust." Now move down toward the date. You're looking for genuine separation between parts of the design, not simply a thick or flattened edge. That's an important distinction. Machine doubling can sometimes make letters appear wider, or create a flat shelf-like secondary edge. It can look convincing, especially under poor lighting, but a genuine double die is different. The die itself contains the double design, because the hubbing process created an additional impression in a slightly different position. Every coin struck from that particular die can then carry those same characteristics. That's why collectors care about documented die varieties. They're not simply looking for something unusual. They're looking for something repeatable and identifiable. So if your 1963 D shows what looks like doubling, don't immediately celebrate. First, compare the location. Compare the shape. Compare the direction of the separation. And most importantly, compare it with known examples of the FS 101 variety. If it doesn't match, it may simply be machine doubling or damage. And here's another rule. Never clean the coin. Don't polish Lincoln. Don't scratch the lettering. Don't scrape around the date. And don't try to make the doubling look stronger. If there's a genuine mint-made characteristic, you want to preserve the coin exactly as you found it. Now, we have identified the mystery, but there's still one question left. If a 1963 penny really does match the recognized double die variety, could that tiny difference actually affect the value? Now, let's talk about the part everyone wants to know. The value. And here's the first thing you need to understand. A normal 1963 Lincoln cent is not automatically a valuable coin. The date doesn't make it rare. The D-mint mark doesn't make it rare. And a strange-looking letter doesn't automatically make it an error. The exact variety, the authenticity, and especially the condition can make a huge difference. For the documented 1963 D double die obverse FS 101, PCGS records an auction result of $358 for an example graded MS64 red. That coin sold through Great Collections in March 2012. Content reference, OASite. 1. Index equals 1. Now, $358 may not sound like the giant numbers you sometimes see attached to famous Lincoln cents, but remember what we're talking about. A coin with a face value of 1 cent brought hundreds of dollars because it carried a recognized double die variety and was preserved in a high grade. And that's the lesson. You can't value the coin simply by looking at the date. You have to identify exactly what you have. In fact, PCGS lists separate 1963 DDDO examples in brown. So if you find a 1963 D that appears to show strong doubling, don't immediately put a huge price on it. Instead, start with the evidence. Take clear photos. Use magnification. Check the date. Check Liberty. Check In God We Trust. Then compare the characteristics with documented FS 101 examples. And if the coin continues to look promising, professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. Services such as PCGS or NGC can help establish whether the coin is genuine and whether it matches a recognized variety. After that, you can compare it with actual auction results, rather than relying on random online asking prices. Because anyone can put a 1963 penny online and ask for $1,000. That doesn't mean somebody will pay $1,000. A real sold price is what matters. And that's why coin collecting is really an investigation. You start with a common coin. You notice something unusual. You investigate the detail. You eliminate damage and machine doubling. You compare the diagnostics. And only then do you ask what the coin might be worth. So take another look at your 1963 Lincoln cent. If it's a 1963, look closely at the obverse. Look at the lettering. Look at the date. And if you think you're seeing genuine doubling, don't ignore it, but don't assume it's valuable either. Prove it first. Because sometimes, the difference between an ordinary penny and a collectible variety is hidden in a few tiny lines, created before the coin ever left the mint. This is Old Coin Adventures. And remember, when you're searching American coins, don't just look for old dates. Look for the tiny mistakes that survived long enough to become part of the coin's history.